Hello and welcome to The Fueled Runner, the podcast where we talk all things running, science and nutrition. I'm your host Sian, and this week I'm talking all about gels. Now, I know gels can be hugely overwhelming, especially if they're the first time you've taken them, you're new to marathon running, the thought of eating something that you've never eaten or tried before, eating whilst you're running, something so far from a normal diet. How many, how often, which one? There's so many things about it which can feel really just a lot. But don't worry, I am here to explain everything that you need to know about gels and fueling during your runs. I'll also be posting more content all about this, different gel consistencies, textures, types to try, ideas, all on my Instagram. So head over and make sure you're following me there at ShansSec, and let's get into it. So first up, what actually are gels? Put simply, they are just a form of transportable carbohydrate. That's it. They are designed to be easy to carry, quick to digest, and fast to deliver energy whilst you're running. Most gels are made of different types of sugar, mainly glucose and fructose, and then some will have caffeine, electrolytes, or other things in them as well. On the back of the packet, you might see things called maltodextrin, which is just a fancy word for a glucose, basically. It's just a form of glucose. But what you're ideally looking for is you want two key sugars in your gels: glucose or maltodextrin and fructose. It's all to do with the way that these are absorbed and digested by your gut. And honestly, I could bore you for hours about multiple transportable glucose carbohydrates, the way, the how, all of these different things, why we know this is the right ones to use, the ratios, why not use sucrose, why not use more fructose, but I'm not going to, because you don't need to know that. All you need to know is that we ideally want a 1 to 0.8 ratio of glucose to fructose in our gels, because that is going to allow our gut to absorb as much carbohydrate as possible and give us the least GI issues. So GI, gastrointestinal issues. So the vomiting, the nausea, the toilet troubles, that's all avoided for most athletes by using this specific ratio of glucose to fructose. And people have been studying this a lot. It used to be thought that it was a 2-to-1 ratio we wanted. So a lot of gels you'll see have a 2-to-1 ratio. And actually that's also fine, because it's also very personal when it comes to gels. A gel that I love, you might not love. It might not work for you, but it does work for me. It might not work for me, but it does work for you. And that is absolutely okay. There is no one gel that is right or wrong. Well, some are much better than others, but we'll talk about that later. And actually, I'll talk more about that on my Instagram. So you'll see me, I've got some videos where I'm squirting out all the different ones that you can try and test and what I think of them. But gels are not magic. They're just fuel. And we need that during a marathon. But why? So what is the purpose of taking on carbohydrate whilst we're running? Well, if you heard my first episode in this series, so we're talking all about carbohydrates, go back and listen if you haven't. Carbohydrate is our fuel source, and it is what our body runs off, literally, and during a marathon. So what happens is we are relying heavily on carbohydrates when we're working at intensity and running our marathon. Our body only has stores of carbohydrate in the form of glycogen that will last about 90 minutes if you're running at 60% of your VO2 max, because the amount of carbohydrate you're using is linked to intensity. But just remember that as the rule of thumb, right? You've got enough fuel in your tanks to last about 90 minutes. And obviously, a marathon is a lot longer than 90 minutes. We store this glycogen in our liver and our muscles. So we have muscle glycogen, which is there right in the muscles, ready to go, ready to be used up, turned into ATP and turned into movement. And then we have a massive store of liver glycogen. So sits in our liver, and this is actually more used when we're exercising to regulate blood sugar levels. And this is what triggers our brain into going, oh my goodness, I'm running out. So if our blood glucose level goes down, our brain is then already setting off alerts. That's where the wall comes in. The idea with gels is that we are giving extra carbohydrate which will then potentially spare some of this glycogen, meaning we don't use it up. So there's quite a lot of studies looking at that now of how the sparing effect on liver glycogen. It's also maintaining our blood glucose level, and it's also feeding our muscles. So that is why we're taking the glucose and the fructose in the form of gels. It's just carbohydrate to allow us to keep exercising beyond our fuel stores. When your glycogen levels are going right down and depleting, so if you've gone past 90 minutes, your pace is going to be feeling way harder. The effort you're having to put in to stay at that pace is going up, your concentration might drop, and your legs are going to feel super heavy. Whereas if you substituted and taken on some carbohydrates during, you wouldn't be feeling like that. And it's not that you've trained badly or you're a bad runner or you're weak. It's just a fuel availability thing. So that's why we top up on the go. Taking on that carbohydrate is literally allowing you to maintain your intensity, keep the effort lower, and therefore support your performance and your future recovery. But when are you meant to start taking gels? So, in your marathon block, as soon as your runs are going over an hour, that is when I want you to think about taking gels or some form of carbohydrate with you to take on your runs. Any run over an hour, I want you to be using something, because we've got to remember that we're not just training our legs, we've also got to train our stomachs. There is so much evidence to support the fact that training a stomach and a gut during marathon training leads to far lower GI issues on race day, that we need to be leaning into that. It's not just enough to train your legs and on race day go, I'll eat whatever, take whatever. No, because your stomach is not going to let you. And you don't want something like that to let you down on race day. So we practice. Every run over an hour, we're practicing our nutrition. Because also, right, you might only have a 16 or 12 week block, and you need to find out which gels are going to work best for you, your timing window. So we want as many chances to try that as possible, right? And when to start taking them is something I see as a big common mistake in runners. And one of the biggest mistakes I see with runners is people not taking gels early enough. Most people wait until they feel bad. Instead, I need you to fuel before you think you need it. We're fueling forwards. Because we're not making up for what we've just run. We're putting in energy for what we're about to run. It's like petrol in a car. You don't drive and then put the petrol in. You've got to put the petrol in first before you can go anywhere. And our legs and our bodies are the same. So we've got to remember we want to fuel early, fuel consistently, and know that you cannot catch up fueling later, because that's when the wall comes straight at you. One of the biggest things and one of the reasons that we fuel and practice is because we can actually avoid the wall by fueling correctly with a good pacing strategy. So remember that. If you're scared of the wall, know that you can avoid it by fueling properly and running sensibly. But again, you might still be thinking, but Sian, you haven't told me when in my run to take my gels. Right, let's get to that. Lots of people say to me, how many should I be taking? How often should I be taking them? And I have to say, well, there is many things that might change this. Rather than how many and how often, I want you to think about the grams of carbohydrate per hour that you're taking in. And don't worry, it's easy to work out. What you need to do is know that you are aiming for 50 plus grams per hour of carbohydrate. And on your gel packets, they will tell you how many grams of carbohydrate there is per gel. Most gels have 20 to 30 grams of carbohydrate in them. So if I'm aiming to hit over 50 grams, I need at least 2 an hour that have 30-ish grams. That's what most runners find will work well for them. But we don't need to start and go from 0 to 100. I don't need you straight away taking 2 gels, taking one every half an hour. We build up to that. And that's again why we start practicing early in marathon training. But you might find that there's a gel that you really, really like. It fits all the criteria for you. And that's criteria that I'll talk about in a bit, actually. You love this gel, but it only has 20 grams of carbohydrate in them. So at that point, I would go, okay, it's absolutely fine. You can take and use that gel. But you just need to take more, and you need to take them more frequently. And that is okay. During a marathon, I will take a gel every 20 to 25 minutes. That is what works for me, the intensity I'm running at, the gel I'm using, and how many grams of carbohydrate I'm trying to hit. Because I'm trying to hit probably more 70 plus. I'm training my gut. We're getting there. We're getting up and up. Because actually, at the higher intensity you're working at for the prolonged marathon period, the more carbohydrates you're going to need. So that's why actually during an easy run, you might not feel like you need the carbohydrates as much or you need it as soon. But remember, as soon as you pick up the intensity, you're burning more carbohydrate and you will need the gels sooner. So even if I am doing a long, easy run, I will still use the same fueling strategy, the same time windows and gels as I will use on race day because I'm training my stomach. I am training my stomach to take on that amount of carbohydrate and deal with it, digest it, and not have any problems. That's why knowing which brand of gels you like and how many grams of carbohydrate are in each one is really important. So we work backwards from that 50 grams an hour ideal. If you're hitting that already, that's fantastic. If you're not hitting that yet, we just build up to it. So say, for example, you love Morton gels. The Morton 100s are 25 grams of carbs. So you would need at least 2 of those an hour. You'd need at least every half an hour. But if you wanted to hit over 50 grams, it's very tolerable. Up to about 90 grams is where most athletes then start to struggle, but you can gradually build up to that, no problem. But again, it's a gradual build up across your marathon block, like with your mileage. If you've never taken a gel before and you don't know where to start and you don't know which one you like, that is also absolutely fine. And what we will do is start on your first gel taking whilst running. I would say pick a session that is about an hour, probably an easy run because then you can take it whilst you're running. Have a go at that, but it's not really, high impact, doesn't matter. Take a gel that you want to try and you think might be good, that you like the idea, the texture, the taste, whatever. Then take it on that first run at about 40 minutes and just see how it feels. And what we do is we increase from there. You might then find out that you need to try and increase the intake of carbs per hour. So signs that you are not taking enough for your body, because again, everyone's different, but we want to be going over 50 grams of carbs because I promise you under that is not enough. Your body might be saying things to you like, I'm super, super, super tired. I don't feel good enough. I am desperate for that next gel. That's a sign. We want to increase more gels per hour. So we either change gels or we shorten our windows. Just shorten it by 5 minutes. So you might go from every 30 minutes to every 25. Or you might be starting to feel really sick at the end of your runs. If you're feeling super, super sick at the end, that really nauseous feeling, again, it's another sign that you need to increase the carbs per hour. You might be feeling super woozy for the rest of the day. Your legs feel absolute lead weights. All of these things are signs that you need to increase the amount you're taking during your runs. Because you definitely don't want to be getting to the end of your easy long runs and being totally wiped out, like brain foggy, dizzy, confused, can't concentrate. That's a sign more gels are needed. Yes, it's hard. Yes, it's tiring, but it shouldn't be making you feel dizzy and woozy. That is a hydration and gels thing. When it comes to picking the right gel for you, there are 4 key things I want you to think about. Grams of carbohydrate, price, texture, and flavor. Grams of carbohydrate is always a good place to start. If it's less than 20, we're not interested. But then also, if they're too big, they might be difficult to carry. So there's some out there which are kind of 90 grams per thing. Personally, I can't carry that. I don't want to be taking that much in one go. So it's just looking around and going, okay, is there a good kind of 25 gram, 30, 35 gram option that I like the look of? But then price. So you can get some seriously expensive gels. And I don't know if it's just me, but I think they've got more expensive. I just went to order my gels for my next training block and I could not believe the price of my cart. So I actually changed the gels I was ordering. So, we're going to spice up this season. They need to be affordable for you. So you need to be able to buy enough gels to last your whole training block and your marathon. And I don't want you using a different gel on race day and going, I use the cheap ones during my training, I'll use the expensive ones during race day. That is a recipe for disaster. Because remember, we're getting our stomachs used to what they're going to be having on race day. So pick one that is within your price range. Then we go to taste, which sounds kind of trivial, but is actually really important because if you're taking 8, 9, 10 of these during a marathon, you need to be able to stomach them, right? I personally hate the kind of really synthetic-y sweet, super, super sweet flavors like the chocolate, the candy floss, there's some really weird birthday cake ones that I've tried once and hated. I like more kind of watermelon or lime or grapefruit vibes. Or some are unflavored, which personally I am currently on an unflavored gel. It has a flavor, but it's, I actually don't know how I describe it to you. It's just unflavored. It's fine. It's more suitable for my palate. And I can have loads of those, no problem. I don't get taste fatigue. Sometimes what I will do is I'll swap one up with a caffeine version or with one that is a different flavor, just so that then I get a bit of, excitement in my mouth. But, that's fine. So what I want you to do is think about something you can take on repeat, whether that's you pick one gel type that has loads of different flavors and then you try all the different flavors and have a mixture during your marathon. Or are you going to just pick one and stick with it? Or are you going to try a few? That's absolutely fine. Because actually I've had some, I've thought they would be really nice. I've put them in my mouth and had to spit them back out because I cannot hack it. Whereas others I've thought wouldn't be very nice, tried them and I've gone, I actually quite like this. So ask around, see what your friends are using, see what you think, see what Reddit thinks, see, just have a look, see what flavors go, oh, I think that sounds nice. Personally, hate a mixed berry, but I've got some friends who absolutely love them and you do you. I'm much more of a citrus or non-flavor. But actually saying that, I am partial to a caramel macchiato one, which if you put caramel macchiato goo into Amazon, they'll come up. They've only got about 23 grams of carbs and they're caffeinated, but that mid-marathon, it's giving you something. Then we move on to texture. So again, there is a huge range of gels on the market and texture is a really big thing that people struggle with initially when they start taking gels. And also people will have a preference for, because when you're taking a gel and running, some people want to be able to drink them. Some people will be able to like to chew them. Some people don't want something in between. There's so many different ways. Some are sticky, some are smooth. It's all about personal preference and trying one until you find the one that works for you. Because just because you hate the first gel you try or you've had some ones that are horrible does not mean that there isn't one that will work for you. Again, I've got those videos on my Instagram that will show you kind of different consistencies of different gels, but they go right down from kind of your high five, really running, really liquidy ones, which are basically like drinking, all the way up. So I'd say it's like high five, then it's SIS, then you get like your precisions, then you get goo, which is pretty thick, like that's pasty. Then you go up to Morton, which is actually like chewable. Like you actually have to not crunch it, but like you have to bite through it. So there's a huge spectrum of thickness of gels. It's just about finding what works for you. So just have a think about, would I rather, be able to drink my gel, but then remember again that they tend to be slightly bigger packages because you also need to be able to carry them, or would you rather a thick, chewy one? Because then we're on to, how do we actually take them? How do we run and eat at the same time? I know that I didn't want to do a half marathon when I first started long endurance running because I didn't like the idea and I didn't want to have to start eating things whilst I was running. It seemed far too alien to me. I hated the idea. I didn't want to do it. So I just put off running half marathons. I waited because I was like, oh no, I don't want to do that. Which now thinking back is kind of crazy. But I had no one to talk to about it and I know no one or nowhere to look about it. So hopefully this is helpful. But yeah, taking them. I always say, remember, sip and step. So we don't want to be smashing gels down all in one go. We want to be taking them slowly over a few minutes, ideally. The first time you take a gel, it is absolutely okay to stop, slow down, walk, or even take it at home in the kitchen just to, try it out, just see what it feels like, see what it tastes like, what it smells like, what it feels like in your mouth. That is absolutely okay. So then when you do take it on your first run, sip and step. So just slowly, so you kind of take a bit into your mouth, a few steps, swallow it down, and then we go again. Because what we don't want is to give ourselves a stitch. So we don't want to swallow loads of air or, end up choking or squirting it all over your face. Because also some of them is quite tricky to open, which again is something to think about when you're picking a gel. How easy is it for you to open? It's a lot of, putting it in your teeth and ripping it type vibes. But again, you will find a gel and you will learn your tactic with them. I have different tactics for different gels, so it's fine. Some gels you do actually need to take water with, whereas some you don't. But often during marathons, you've got an aid station every 5 kilometers or so. And depending on which gel you pick, depends on whether you need to take water with it or not. And again, when I'm saying you need to take water, it's a GI digestion issue. So with some gels, if they don't have any water in them, you need to take water with them for them to be able to be absorbed properly and lower the risk of your GI issues. Again, the packets will tell you whether they are with or without. So talk about isotonic on them. Isotonic, you don't need water. Others, you do. But again, I'd hope that every aid station you're going through, you're taking a few sips of water anyway. So you should be fine. Don't stress it too much. It's not like, oh, I've taken a gel, so I straight away need to drink a load of water. No, don't worry about it like that. It's fine. Because that's also another question I get is like, oh, do I have to be drinking water whilst I'm taking it? No, it's okay. Don't worry about it. One thing at a time. And again, I'll actually talk about water and taking on hydration during the race later in this series. But just remember, easy does it when you're taking gels, regardless of, how long you've been taking them for, or, your history with them, your practice, how much you've practiced. Easy does it. And especially when it comes to caffeine gels, which is something I also get asked about. Caffeine gels are brilliant. They're a great invention. I personally take them during races. I also practice with them during my longest long runs. So I will practice with them at least 3 runs in a block, probably more. And they are really great. But the caveat here is you need to practice with them, because we all know what happens when you have coffee in the morning. It stimulates the digestive system. We don't want that on race day, especially not mid-race if you've never tried them before, because that will give your stomach the shock of its life. If you've never taken a caffeine gel and then wham, you're whamming it with loads of caffeine. The purpose of caffeine gels is that they reduce the rate of perceived exertion, so they make running feel easier. They also give you that lift and that boost, and actually cognitively for a lot of people, they help kind of wake you back up and keep you going. But you only need to be taking maximum 2 caffeine gels in a marathon. Please do not take every single one of your gels being caffeine, because if you're taking 2 gels an hour, that could be 8, 10, 12 gels in a marathon, right? If they were all caffeine, oh my goodness, that would be outrageous, unbelievable amounts of caffeine. These gels are strong. You wouldn't drink that many coffees, so don't have that many caffeine gels just because they're easy to ingest. 2 a marathon, please. And let's talk about real food versus gels, because a lot of people say, oh, can't I just use real food or sweets instead of gels? And to that, I will say, absolutely you can. You can use quote unquote real food instead of gels. Sweets are great. They are fine. They're a quick, easily digestible, absorbing sugar. But the problem is volume. We're trying to hit 50 grams of carbs an hour, right? If you tried to do that through strawberry laces, you would need to eat a whole packet every hour. So if you're doing a 4-hour marathon, if you can eat 4 whole packets of strawberry laces, firstly, I'd be very impressed. Secondly, how are you doing that when you're running that quickly? And thirdly, I would feel so sick. I don't know how you'd carry them, and your dentist would probably be really upset with you. It just sounds horrible to me, 4 whole bags, and that's if you're doing a 4-hour marathon. And then if we're looking at Percy Pigs, you have to take over half a bag an hour. Again, I love a Percy Pig, they're fantastic, but I could not eat that many whilst running. I'd get jaw DOMs, my muscles in my face would be exhausted. I'd spend the whole time probably ending up swallowing air. I don't know how I'd carry that many bags of Percy Pigs, and you would just be constantly eating them while you're running. It's just not feasible to get the amount of carbohydrate you need to feel good whilst you're running, to not hit the wall just using sweets. Same goes with kind of dates, but with dates, we're running into the additional problem of fiber, because you'd be eating an awful lot of dates and anyone's stomach would go absolutely south on that. Same with bananas as well, actually. And I'm not saying don't use them at all, but what I'm saying is, can we use them as a supplement to gels? So do you want to take 2 smaller gels an hour and a handful of jelly beans or sweets? Do you want to take 1 gel and, quite a lot of sweets? Or are we just using them, as a supplement? So every time you see your family in the crowd, are you having a Percy Pig? It's quite a nice incentive. Or, are you having them on your long run in your pocket just as a fun little treat every time you hit a certain distance, as a fun little way to, incentivize yourself along? They're a bonus fuel, not the base fuel. And I think that's where some runners also go slightly wrong in the terms of going, oh, these long runs are so tricky. But then they look and they see, actually, you're only eating a few Percy pigs. You're not taking on enough sugar during your running. I know that is a lot of information about gels, but hopefully you've learned some things and got some new ideas and some tips that are going to help fuel your marathon training. Remember, the right gel is the one that works best for you. It doesn't matter what everyone else is taking. It's what works best for you, your stomach, your running, and your wallet. I want you to remember to fuel early because we're fueling forwards and not wait just until you feel terrible. We're aiming to hit 50 grams plus an hour, and that's how we work out how often we need to take our gels and how many we need. We take the one we've chosen, we look at the grams of carbs, and we see how many we need in an hour. Remember, you need to practice in your training and train your stomach as well as your legs. And remember that it's your marathon and your journey, and there is no right or wrong answers. It's just about working out what gets you through your marathon in the best, most enjoyable way possible. If you found this episode helpful, I would love for you to share it with anyone else you know who is new to marathoning, new to gels, or just needs a bit of help working out what gels will work for them. As always, if you want more science-backed practical fueling tips, you can go and find me on Instagram at ShansSec or on TikTok at SSec. Leave me any questions, comments, gel ideas, reviews, questions, anything at all in the comments, and I will get back to you there, or send me a DM if you'd like to. Next week, I'm going to be doing a Q&A and speaking to someone else who's doing the London Marathon, so stay tuned for that one, and have a lovely week, and I will see you next week. Happy running!